Alright, welcome back to part 2 covering WWE Crown Jewel 2023. Last we left off, we were talking about Kairi Sane making her return to the WWE. And now we move on to our next match, the co-main event, if you will, or not the co, but the penultimate match. We got Cody Rhodes versus Damian Priest, just a simple one-on-one match. And what'd you think about this match, sir?
I know that Cody and various forms of the Judgment Day have been feuding on Raw for a long time, right? So this is a match that I, didn't even think about wanting. But they're two big guys who are going to be big guys and hit each other real hard. So I talked myself into it.
Yeah, I definitely saw a lot of people, it's like a common joke that, the Judgment Day, Sami Zayn, Cody, and Jay, and like a couple other people have been like feuding for months on end. The benefit to not watching the weekly shows is we see none of that, so we don't get this sort of fatigue. But you also still
not sick of it. Nope.
Yeah, you still see it bleed onto the pay-per-view sometimes, but I was still interested in seeing this one. I thought, it could be an interesting matchup for the most part.
I think Damian has been in a lot of tag team matches, so maybe it was refreshing for me too to see him in a singles.
Yeah, definitely. Overall, what'd you think of this match, though, sir?
It was good. I was talking in the last episode about Bianca Belair's face in peril with her bad knee. Like she kept landing on her leg and reacting, right? I think she even did a backbreaker on her knee, like destroying her knee, right? Caused a double down. Here in the very next match, Jack, Cody has got, I think, an ankle problem because the Judgment Day went after him and Pillmanized it or smashed it against the stairs or something like that. And, it's something that, you just sort of go, maybe we should have put some more space between those two stories we're telling.
Yeah. I thought, this match was, pretty decent. They obviously did the most they could. I did like the part where the crowd started chanting, "Where's your briefcase?"
That's a good one.
Yeah, and then, I don't know, you got your typical, sort of Judgment Day match where you get all these interferences. Judgment Day turning into the Bloodline at points, where you get interference from Balor, McDonough, and then, Dominic Mysterio is going to make his way out.
Hey, pop quiz for you, Jack, because I think the shenanigans, the interferences, right? I think they came at a weird time. It was almost in the exact middle of the match because there was so much match left after they were done away with, right? Mm. Why do you think? So Balor comes down to down the ramp. The referee is reacting to him, which gives JD McDonough, a chance to sneak up from behind, but he's thwarted. But I'm asking you, Jack, why did they come out then when they did? Why not closer to the end of the match, for example?
I noticed that too. I don't know. It was kind of confusing to me. This match and the way they structured it was kind of weird to me.
So I watched it again, right? Because I, was half paying attention on Saturday. I watched it again with that in mind, and I have a theory. Cody had just hit the crossroads pretty early in the match, and at the crossroads, Jack, here comes Balor. As if to say, he's getting too close to losing. Look at me, OMG. I might be onto something.
That is interesting.
Because they go on fighting for a long time after, he does away. Oh, actually, he doesn't do away with them. Dominic Mysterio's coming down with a chair. This is it. We're going to win this one for the home team. And what happens to Dom, Jack?
Jey Uso interferes. And what happens? He super kicks Balor.
It's a super kick.
He super kicks McDonough. And I think he hits one to Dominic as well.
Oh, yes. Grabs a chair, chases him up the ramp.
Yeah.
Those are some pretty super kicks, too.
Yeah, and then that's when we
get the one to Dom. The one to Dom absolutely blindsides him.
Yeah, that one looked real good. We see Cody hit the cutter. the bionic elbow, tribute to his father. And then that's when he hits, I think, 3 crossroads to put Damian Priest down. And Michael Cole, for whatever reason, wants to mention that he did that at WrestleMania, but the outcome was different.
Michael Cole, he's known for giving the business to some of those guys in the ring. He's giving the old top dollar treatment to Cody for some reason.
Yeah. But Cody gets the win here. I don't know. I'm a bit confused with the direction they're going with Damian Priest, especially because he's a Money in the Bank holder, and it always seems like to be this trend. Someone wins Money in the Bank, and then they start losing a ton.
Well, he's reigning tag team champions too, right?
Yeah.
Hear me out, Jack. I was wondering. Cody wants to finish the story. He wants Roman all to himself. I have 2 questions. One, why doesn't Damian threaten to challenge Roman to foil Cody's ability to finish the story? Or 2, why doesn't Cody try to help Damian challenge and beat Seth so he uses his Money in the Bank on that championship? It behooves him to go, hey, Seth, look over there. Pow! 1, 2, 3. You've lost your ability to challenge Roman. It's all mine.
Well, you see, that would work if we weren't in the world of wrestling where all the baby faces decide they want to have low IQ.
They're all Sting. They're all mid-90s Sting.
Oh, man.
Hey, so speaking of Damian Priest and the direction he's going in, did you see what they announced on Monday?
I think are you talking about War Games?
I'm talking about Adam Priest doing his best impression of William Regal and announcing that it's War Games, right?
Yeah.
Damian Priest, the holder of the Money in the Briefcase, senior Money in the Bank, is going to be locked inside of 2 cages with the world champion, Jack.
I would find it really interesting if they did something with that,
Yeah, like mid-match, post-match, before the match.
Yeah, just
by the way,
they should
something.
They should do a spot where he. I'm trying to think of how's the way they could do this. I don't know, something where he tries to cash in before Rollins gets in the actual match or something,
Oh my! The match isn't even a match until everyone gets in, right?
Yeah, so he could easily, leave the cage, beat him up.
Table. We're setting ourselves up for disappointment here.
Yeah, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. He's gonna cash in on a random Raw in some random town in, I don't know, let's say Arkansas, and as soon as he hands in the briefcase, he's gonna get rolled up and pinned pretty easily.
Dang.
Speaking of disappointing finishes and this common theme of disappointing finishes, we got ourselves another Roman Reigns main event. Like I mentioned, he's defending the title against LA Knight.
Yeah. Hey, in the package leading up to this, I couldn't help but notice LA Knight multiple times referring to the championship that Roman Reigns is wielding, the one belt that he's wielding, as the WWE Championship. I thought it was a mistake, but he does it more than once.
Interesting.
And I think Jack, I think we've moved past the 2 belts, right?
Yeah.
He's got the 1 gold belt, and I think they're going to begin to call it the WWE Championship, which I'm 100% down for.
Yeah, I agree. That's a welcome change. Especially because then it makes more sense if Cody wins it, that it's actually the WWE Championship that his father never held,
Yep.
But going into this match, sir, what'd you think?
We've come a long way, LA Knight and us. I don't know what you call us fans. He's got a word for us, but we're not going to use that word. Just thinking about 2 months ago, Jackie was having that snore fest with the Miz at Payback. And here we are in front of Saudi Arabia, all localized in that stadium, fighting for the grandest prize of them all. And you know what Michael Cole did? Michael Cole talking him up, too, about his humble days on the Indies. His days in NXT, his feeble attempt at managing a modeling agency. He actually said that.
Oh, man. Yeah. Funny enough, my dad made similar note saying that, isn't it crazy that, the one thing my dad always remembers is when they were doing that promo for the old NXT versus new NXT War Games, and he was always like, I'll never forget watching that. They're all cutting their promos. The team of old NXT, it was like Gargano, Ciampa. I forget who the other member was, but then LA Knight comes in and he starts cutting a promo that, was very reminiscent of The Rock to my dad, And I was telling my dad also, you remember watching this guy and Cameron Grimes have a feud over the $1 Million Championship? It's crazy to think how far he's come, and I can only imagine what the people who have been seeing him for even longer feel like seeing him in this spot,
Yeah, Eddie Kingston gave him his flowers, saying he's a good guy and that he's, excited about his success.
Yeah. So, it's a cool spot for him to be in, especially, considering his age, in a sense. A lot of people wrote him off.
Yeah.
Even being in this situation, but yet here he is.
And I'll tell you what, I noticed and I couldn't help realizing, like, he doesn't have a lot of moves that you look forward to him hitting,
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have, like, a lot of signature. I mean, he actually does, but they're not particularly thrilling, right?
Yeah.
He's good for a backdrop, He's good for a power slam. But one thing he had going for it was all them people in that arena, and Roman reacted to them the entire match. They would get real loud, and they would cheer LA Knight, and he would show them how upset, how confused, how frustrated he was with them.
Yeah. Any spots that stood out to you, sir?
Yes, Jack. We get an appearance from Solo Sikoa. He's walking down the ramp. And I wonder, Jack, why did he come out then? Seemingly in about the midpoint of the match.
What's it called? He hits the BFT.
Not the BFT, but he hits the LA Knight elbow.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And I tested my theory, Jack. I go, I know Solo comes out, and he comes out at a weird time. What makes him come out? What's his cue? It's the elbow. Goodness gracious, Jack. Goes, Roman's in trouble. Yeah, so we get the bloodline coming out full force. He tries to hit that elbow early in the match, and Paul Heyman gets on the apron or he starts yammering, just distracting. Roman does a lot of powdering,
Yeah. We also see what's it called? He finally hits the BFT, and that's when Jimmy interrupts, and that's when we get LA Knight putting him through the announcer's table.
Yes, we do. There's also a spot somewhere around here where he gets Jimmy and he starts wailing his head against the not the Spanish announce table, the Arab announce table.
Oh yeah.
He starts ramming him into the table, right, repeatedly. Lets him go. Roman gets there in time for him to start ramming him in repeatedly, and I thought that was a really funny spot.
Yeah. There was a spot, but I can't remember what it was. It had to do with one of Roman's reactions, to the crowd, obviously.
But we got LA Knight kicking out of a Superman punch, and I'm like, okay, oh my,
yeah. And then I'll mention this going into it. There was some speculation that my dad was telling me about that Roman potentially could be like working injured, so like there was that sort
Yeah.
of like thought in the back of the mind that like, well, maybe he could drop it here and it would be like a crazy moment. But then there was also like
Yeah.
something where it said Roman was going to be taking the rest of the year off, and me and
Uh-huh.
my dad looked at each other and were like, "There's 2 months left in the year. What do you mean the rest of the year? Like, he would have done that anyways. It's not like it's a big deal at this point."
Uh-huh.
I saw a crazy stat. I don't know if it was made before or after the LA Knight match, but
Yeah.
Roman has wrestled like I think it's like 11 matches this year, and it's just like that is crazy that your world champion has only wrestled 11 matches in the year, not 11 title defenses. 11 times he's wrestled in the year.
Yeah. There he's going after Hogan's. My friend, I hung out with him on Sunday and he says, is he trying to beat something to do with Hogan? Because I think he saw it on Instagram or he heard about it. I'm like, yeah, man. He's like a year away from surpassing Hulk Hogan's title reign and being like, I think the third longest behind like Pedro Morales and Bruno Sammartino. The difference is, Jack, Hulk Hogan defended his title at this, in 1,400 days, like 400 times. Now, I think 400 of those matches all were the exact same match against probably three people.
Yeah,
But
no
he
lie.
did it.
Yeah. But getting to the finish of this match, obviously, as we mentioned, he puts Jimmy through the table. He gets speared through the barricade. Roman pulls him back in, and I think he hits him with a spear to finish him off.
He did. There was a panic moment, right? He had hit a Superman punch. He hit a spear. Didn't work. I always love to see Roman like grasping at straws and going for that guillotine. He hit the guillotine on him too, and it looked deep. It looked bad. And LA Knight fought his way through that, ran him into the corner. But yes, sir, we hit a spear at the end for the win.
Yeah, and at this point, it's just very much rinse and repeat. Um, I will obviously never judge anyone for their likings in wrestling. I know very much my likings in wrestling can easily be picked apart as well, but I just find it crazy how people don't see any issue with this sort of rinse and repeat style.
I
Especially,
always think of a guy. I always think of a guy on YouTube who is a big Goldberg fan as a kid, and I bring that up like when he thinks about Roman going, "Nah, I can see him have it for at least 2 more years." When he said that 2 years ago, I thought, "You're a crazy person who doesn't know what he's signing up for." And here I am 2 years later thinking, he has to feel differently than he did 2 years ago.
yeah. And especially when all these people are talking about, beating Hogan's record and doing this and that, and you're just like, I don't think you people are understanding what that, means, what that means for a
Yeah,
lot of the different talents involved, a lot of the shows, the future shows and all that. What it like if that's gonna happen, then the Rumble is going to be changed, for the most part. Like, as I mentioned, now's around the time they start setting in plans for Mania. So they start setting things in motion, like the Rumble winners and who's going to challenge what champion, you know? So it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know, man. I think even the biggest Roman Reigns fans have to admit that this is just dragging on for too long, especially when it's the same stuff over and over. Like, I wouldn't mind it if the matches were different, if the matches had, like something that just differentiated them from one another, but like it's just been a lot of the same, and it doesn't have even an ounce of intrigue as like when it began for the most part,
Yeah,
As much as
I hear you.
as much as I didn't enjoy, or as much as I haven't enjoyed this entire reign, I can at least admit that like when he first won it and he did those matches with Jay and Kevin Owens and then the match at Mania and then the match with Cesaro, it was like they at least had something that was different to them each time. It was something of intrigue, except for obviously the Royal Rumble match against Kevin Owens back in 2021, I think it was. But like, you know, at least there was intriguing stuff to the Jay matches, to the first few Kevin matches, to that WrestleMania match, you know. And like now we're at this point where it's like it's literally just the same thing, just a different opponent. And like the most annoying thing is that there's no level of continuity in the sense of how has no one gotten smarter throughout this 3-year reign.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is it that no one has any help to offer? And like this goes back even to WrestleMania, where Cody, he got help from Sammy and Kevin, but you know Solo's there. So how is it that you don't get at least one more person to help you out to make sure Solo doesn't get involved?
Dang it.
You know, and like I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, he's a heel, this and that, but like we're seeing a lot more interesting heel characters come out in the wrestling world today. And so it's like, it's just kind of tough. It's like a tough pill to swallow when you get, you know, Roman Reigns, who could, you know, easily have various elements to this character, be very much the same old, and it doesn't help that he only appears every so often. So it's like, there's not a lot to build on from the previous time that he shows up, you know?
And what I wish this manifested would be like a whole locker room of baby faces who are like, you know, full of a sense of urgency, or like, we've got to stop Roman. Like what Sammy's doing with Judgment Day. I mean, it's small pickings, you know what I mean? Oh, I'm going to stop the Judgment Day. Almost as like a constellation because he couldn't stop Roman. But like, I wish there was like this line of people going, all right, I'm going to try. But we're running out of guys, right? You know, who like even stand a chance, who even like qualify. And then when somebody does this mean they're going to disappear for months on end too? Is Cody going to become a part-time wrestler?
Yeah, and I think the especially annoying part to me, again, goes into like this lack of like storytelling with this all, which is funny because people swear this whole storyline is cinema, you know, but the most annoying part to me is, again, going to that whole thing of, well, why doesn't the locker room rally? Why don't they do this and that? Why can't we get some explanation for it? Like, I would at least accept that no one was there to help Drew, to help LA Knight, to help these various guys. If the story point that they were telling was that none of these guys want to help each other because they want to be the one to beat Roman, you know? So they don't want to offer help because it would be like, why would I offer help if it means another guy's winning and I'm not, you know? Like, at least something like that, you know? Or maybe even, you know, doing a sort of a, like, what do I want to, I don't know what's the word I want to use, but like, letting reality bleed into the product by having a couple of guys acknowledging that, like, hey, we want to, I'm not going to help because, you know, he brings a lot of money to this company and that means I get paid.
Oh, that's interesting. Having a whole, like, you know, a whole segment of the roster that's like, actually, I want him to stay forever, the Universal Champion. It's all right, Jack. Our savior is coming. The Second City Saint himself, old CM Phil Brooks, is coming to dethrone the head of the table in Chicago. He's coming, Jack. I know it. Getting my my hands taped up right now as we speak in celebration for his return.
Yeah, and then he gets pie-faced by Kevin Owens because he keeps bringing up the fact that Kevin Owens wears a shirt.
Damn. That's what I love too. I would also, like everything you just said, I would also love it if they were like on record as saying, you know, why didn't I go out to help LA Knight? He's a jerk. You know what I mean? Like, he's wildly unlikable. Like, you all like him because you don't have to work with him. With his yes and his this and his that.
Yeah, or just like a simple, like, why didn't you go?
We came out to help.
Yeah, why didn't you go out to help him? I hate that guy.
Right? Hey, how come you didn't help Cody? Oh, you mean AEW? No, I ain't gonna go help him. It's all right, Jack. Will Ospreay, your bruv, is coming. He's going to dethrone the head of the table. Oi, oi, oi.
Oh man, nah. I'm not like it was funny how you said in the first episode. There's a lot of these different champions that you're just like, if they didn't lose now, they're not losing anytime soon. And like this is one where it's like we've been saying that for like every single show for the past 2, 3 years. You know, like if he's not losing it now, he's not losing anytime soon. And like you just don't even see that finish line at all.
Yeah. If I had the book, I would have Damian Priest beat him with all his minions. You know, even his minions neutralizing the bloodline members that are on his side, like complete swerve. Just like we're going after Seth, we're going after Raw, and then psych, we suffocated you and we won. And Damian Priest,
give Roman a taste of his own medicine.
WWE champion.
Yeah.
Say again.
I said, give Roman a taste of his own medicine.
Heck yes.
Do it like how they did the FTR when they lost their tag titles to Ricky Starks and Big Bill. It was literally just completely random. Like they just beat them down, basically like almost squashed them. Like they put one of the guys through the table and then they like won in like 5 minutes, and everyone was just like, what the heck? Like do something like that for Roman. I know everyone wants this huge big blow off, you know, this big moment. It's like, nah, imagine if Damian Priest just cashed in, the entire bloodline beat him down before, and you get that scene of just him pinning Roman, you know, and finally defeating him after all these years. Because hey, at this point, I'll take anybody. At this point, I'll take Akira Tozawa beating him.
Oh goodness gracious! It's all right, Jack. Julia's coming to WWE. She's gonna beat the head of the table.
Oh man. No, Mercedes Moné's going to return and beat Roman Reigns. Oh man. But you know who's going to beat Roman Reigns?
Who?
MJF.
Oh, in 2024, he's going to come. He will have forgotten all about AEW, Adam Cole, the BBB. He's gonna come beat he's gonna come beat Roman Reigns. I think I had a moment of that thought during the Roman Reigns match. Just he's such a, they were saying that LA Knight's never been in this he's never been in this environment, right? And like neither is MJF, right? He's been champion for a couple of months and he did that Wembley stuff, but he's never been like with a guy like Roman Reigns in front of a crowd like that. And I just wonder, like, what Will Ospreay or Kenny Omega, who fought in Japan, right? But I just think Roman's just something else. Maybe he is comparable to like Okada. Well, how much time we have, Jack?
We have about 16 minutes.
Who do you think, Jack? Because John Cena has been recently announced as the greatest of all time. And my buddy asked me, is it true? So I want to ask you, Jack, if it's not John Cena, who is the greatest of all time?
Well, my answer typically annoys a lot of people because a lot of people start getting into stuff that, if I'm being blunt and honest, doesn't matter to me as a fan. Because I do like, obviously being a kid growing up in the 2000s watching wrestling. I obviously love John Cena. I was never on the John Cena hate train. I've been a John Cena fan since as far as I can remember because, that was the biggest superstar when I was watching, And I still enjoy him. It's not like I've switched up. I still enjoy him. And I think he could definitely be in that GOAT argument just because of all the accomplishments he has. But a lot of people, they get annoyed with my answer because they start bringing up stuff like, how much money did they draw, this impact on the business, blah, blah, blah. And to me, it's like, I'm a fan. I only care about what I see on my screen. I don't care about any of the business that happens outside of it, this and that, I annoy a lot of people. Well, I annoy certain groups of people, but I still am with the consensus or like the group of people that say Bryan Danielson is the GOAT just because of the sheer amount of, wrestling, whether it be the matches, the storylines. I've just enjoyed so much out of him, and the variety he can provide at times, whether it be like being able to lean into comedy, which the WWE, helped him out a bit at times, though I know, he had his comedic moments on the various indies like PWG and Ring of Honor. But, I just sort of like that sort of fact that, like, he has that huge just sort of like resume of like matches, especially, to me, it's like the one thing that like separates him from so many others is I like to think sometimes, I'm like, what was this person's best match? What was, like just listing out, like obviously I don't, just let me like throw out random names, for example. Like let's say I'm like, what was MJF's best match? What was, trying to think people in the WWE. Let's say like John Cena, for example. Like basically whenever I start thinking of different wrestlers, I'm like, what was their best match? And oftentimes I come to the conclusion that person had their best match with Bryan Danielson. That seems to be a very common denominator for a lot of these guys,
Uh-huh. So with that in mind, and with that criteria in mind, would you say Bryan Danielson is the greatest of all time, even considering Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels?
See, it's always a bit tough to me because it's like I try and think of wrestling in the same way as music, where I'm like, even if it's from an older time, I don't think it should affect your viewing. Like in certain cases, obviously,
Yeah.
like people like us nowadays, we can't really appreciate stuff like, I don't know, like Hulk Hogan or like Bruno Sammartino or even like some other guys. It's like it's harder to appreciate their run now because, we have a sort of different mindset on wrestling nowadays, But
Yeah.
in those cases, it's like I could see that argument too, because it's like some people, in a sense, are timeless, Like even if I know the outcome, I can go watch a Bret Hart match and be amazed by it. I don't know if it was this year or last year, but for the first time, I went out and I watched that WrestleMania 13 match with Austin, and I loved it. I loved that match with Austin. So
yeah, I brought them up. I brought them up because I think it's safe to say that they dealt like the best matches of their opponent's career on a number of occasions. You know what I mean? Like, I think the two of them have a similar resume of people who say, yeah, my best match was with Bret, easy, or Shawn. And I think the way you described it too, comparing Bret to Bryan is a lot like somebody comparing Michael Jordan to LeBron James, right? Like, who would win in that match? It's a different era, and they even play different styles.
Yeah.
The answer is Michael Jordan, but I will give you, sir, credit where it's due.
Yeah. If I had to give, I know it's like very common to see these three, but like, if you had to ask me who are like the most deserving three to be included like in the GOAT conversation, and I'm going to say this now, I'm not including certain like foreign talents from either Mexico or Japan or the UK, because I don't have knowledge on that. I'm not an encyclopedia, but like to me, when it comes to American wrestling, I think the three answers you could never go wrong with are Bryan Danielson, Kurt Angle, and Bret Hart. Because those three to me are very similar in the sense of like, again, you think of a lot of people's best matches, it's one of those three from their times. They were three guys who, had a lot of iconic like matches and feuds, and I don't know much about Bret Hart, but I know the one thing that gives the edge for Angle and Danielson for a lot of people is like they were very what's the word I want to use? They were able to like do all this different stuff. Like Angle was able to be this wrestling machine, but have that comedic side to him, you know, that was a big part of the WWE, you know. And I don't know, I think a lot of people may disagree, but I think the thing that also helps the three of their cases is that they were able to go outside of the machine, outside of the bubble, and be as successful. Now, obviously, Danielson was outside the bubble, then came in, and then obviously now has gone back out of like the bubble, the machine that is WWE. But like Angle, for example, you know, like he was able to leave WWE and be just as successful out in TNA, out in, you know, his like short little stint in Japan, you know. Like I don't think it's a fault to say that, like, you know, people who go around the world are, you know, they're a level above, because, you know, in that sense it's like they went out seeking, you know, the best the world had to offer, rather than just like playing with whatever was in their sort of a field, you know.
Yeah,
because, you know, as much as people like to think of it this way, the WWE is very different from a lot of the different sports leagues we see, you know, like the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, you know, and also soccer. It's like, well, with soccer, there's all these leagues, so I wouldn't necessarily use that example, but like the reason there's a lot of prestige to them is because, for the most part, the talent comes to those places, you know. Whereas with WWE, even though to me they're the biggest one, and obviously you see a lot of talent come in, wrestling is different in the sense of, like, you know, not every talent is going to want to like come over, and you shouldn't fault them for not wanting to uproot their lives and come to America, you know.
Goodness.
So it's like I always think it's a bit cooler when you see guys like Bret Hart and Kurt Angle and Bryan Danielson, and, you know, now seeing, you know, modern names like Jon Moxley take the risk and step out the bubble and say, let me go see what the rest of the world has to offer. But yeah, I still go with Bryan Danielson just because, you know, I think it's reflective of, like, obviously someone my age would look to that, whereas people of different age groups would have different opinions. But at the same time, like I said, wrestling is kind of like music in the sense of, like, for most part, the very best of the best are timeless, you know? Like, the one I want to seek out the most, because I saw it, like, in this video that was, like, doing it was this guy doing a video on heels in wrestling. I want to check out Piper versus Bret Hart at, I think it was Mania, I forget what Mania it is, but it was for the Intercontinental Championship, and it was like, it was a good sort of, like, based on the video I was watching, I was like, that looks like a really good story and match that we see parallels to nowadays, you know?
Yeah, you know, I hate to think that it was one of Piper's later matches, so I don't think it stands as up to his early work, right? But yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. It's like, you know, I want to check out a lot of these guys, but also it's like, it's kind of hard to when you go and find the match and it's like, you know, not the best quality, you know, which is like, or like you can't find the match, you know? Like, that's my biggest thing when people are like, you know, with all these different, like, wrestlers or certain, like, promotions, I'm like, I would love to check them out if they were easily accessible and I'm not having to go to some shady websites just to watch, you know, the footage.
That's hilarious.
But, yeah, that's my sort of take on that. But
right on.
What's it called? You know who could build himself to that level? Although I don't know if I don't know. I feel like he'll be like in like sort of like the bottom of the list. Like he could get there. I don't know for sure, but Gunther is working his way up that list for me. Like slowly but surely. Every year since I found out about him, he like works his way up the list. Like right now, in terms of like my favorites, well, see, right now obviously he'd be like towards the top. But if I'm thinking all time, like each match I watch, it's like he creeps up and up. You know, so like that's always another cool thing to consider is that, like, just like sports, there's always going to be the next generation that comes in and starts changing your standards, you know?
What a funny balance that you picked Bryan Danielson, the everlasting underdog, and Gunther, who like has to be like final boss, you know?
Yeah.
Like the like really villainous wall that our baby faces are going to run into.
You just made me sad imagining that match.
And that it'll never be, because Danielson's ending his career in AEW.
Yeah. It's okay. One day there will be a way where we can simulate these matches like realistically, in a sense.
Not on Fight Forever, because that creator mode is garbage.
Oh, man. But any closing thoughts, sir, before we head out?
The obvious GOAT is Rey Mysterio, because it says so on his pants.
Well, if we're going that route, the obvious GOAT is obviously Bryan Danielson, because for a time he looked like a GOAT.
Touche.
But anyway,
and if I were to divulge any more about what I wanted to think or say, it was going to get into those metrics and those numbers and figures that you don't care about. Me and Kevin Nash, we're like, who's making the most money?
Oh, man. Well, I don't know, man. If you're going by that metric, you're basically saying you're enjoying this Roman Reigns championship run.
Throw him up. Got the one up. The one. We the ones.
Oh, man. But with that being said, thank you all for joining us for these 2 episodes covering WWE Crown Jewel. The next time we will see you is covering Survivor Series. Will CM Punk show up? Will Phil Brooks make an appearance? What if he just shows up in the crowd?
Oh my. Get that NXT shout out. Hey, front row.
Oh, man. And like I said, Survivor Series will be the next time. But until then, I've been Jack, joined by
Mr. Solis.
Thank you all for joining for these 2 episodes of Season 4 of the Call It Anything podcast. And until next time, we'll catch y'all then.